It was Christmas Eve and the city glowed with golden lights, the streets alive with the sound of carols, bells, and hurried footsteps of families rushing home to warmth and celebration. Yet not every corner of the city sparkled with joy. In the quiet shadows behind a grocery store far from the laughter, a young woman bent low over a dumpster pulling out scraps of bread with trembling hands. Her name was Emily, but she had not heard anyone call her by name in months. To most she was invisible, a figure on the street forgotten and ignored. Her thin coat could barely keep away the biting cold and her stomach ached with hunger. But worse than hunger was the emptiness inside, the loneliness that grew heavier every night. Not far away, a man walked briskly across the parking lot carrying bags of carefully wrapped gifts. His name was Daniel, a millionaire known in business circles for his sharp mind and in private circles as a devoted father. He had everything money could buy, but even so his heart carried a wound that no wealth could heal. His wife had died years ago, leaving him to raise his little boy alone, and though he had poured all his love into being both mother and father, the nights were still hollow, the holidays still cold. No matter how many gifts he bought or dinners he prepared, the empty chair at the table was always there. Daniel placed the bags in the trunk of his car and then paused. Something caught his attention. He saw movement near the dumpster at the far end of the lot. At first he thought it might be an animal, but as he squinted through the falling snow he realized it was a woman. He watched as she pulled a half-eaten sandwich from the trash, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. A pang shot through him. The sight seemed unreal in this night of abundance where families feasted and celebrated, and here was someone desperate enough to dig through waste for survival. He hesitated for a moment, part of him wondering if he should walk away, not get involved. Yet another part of him, stronger and undeniable, urged him forward. He walked slowly toward her, his footsteps crunching in the snow. She heard him and turned quickly, her eyes wide with fear, as though she expected to be scolded, chased away. Her voice broke as she whispered, "I am sorry, I just needed something to eat. Please do not call the police." Her words were not loud but filled with despair. Daniel stopped a few feet away, studying her pale face and hollow cheeks. She looked no older than her late 20s, but hardship had stolen her youth. He spoke gently. "You do not need to apologize. What is your name?" She hesitated, clutching the stale bread like it was treasure, and finally muttered, "Emily." Daniel nodded, softly. "Well, Emily, it is freezing out here and you should not be alone tonight." She shook her head quickly. "No, I am fine. I do not want to be a burden. You do not know me. I have nothing to offer." He looked at her firmly. "You are not a burden. You are a human being." She looked down her shoulders, trembling. Daniel stepped closer and removed his scarf, wrapping it gently around her neck. She gasped slightly from the unexpected warmth. He said, "Come with me, please. At least for tonight. Let me help." She stared at him, uncertain, as though waiting for the moment he would reveal a cruel trick. But in his eyes she saw something she had not seen in a long time: sincerity. Finally her defenses broke and she nodded. He helped her into his car and turned up the heat. She pressed her hands against the vents, whispering, "Thank you," under her breath, as though afraid to speak too loud. Daniel drove in silence, his mind spinning. She reminded him of himself in those dark days after his wife passed, when he, too, felt abandoned by the world, though, unlike Emily, he had wealth to shield him. When they reached his large house, lights glowed from the windows and a small boy came running out. "Daddy, Daddy, you're back." The boy, about 7 years old, froze when he saw the stranger beside his father, his eyes wide with curiosity. Daniel knelt and said, "Son, this is Emily. She is our guest tonight." The boy smiled instantly and said, "Hi, Emily. My name is Noah. Do you want to see our Christmas tree?" Without hesitation, he grabbed her hand and tugged her inside. Emily looked stunned, as though a child's innocent kindness was more powerful than any gift. She followed him inside, tears already brimming. The warmth of the house nearly overwhelmed her. The smell of cookies, the soft glow of decorations, the sound of laughter. It had been years since she had stepped into a home on Christmas Eve. She tried to shrink back, saying, "Maybe I should not stay. I do not belong here." Daniel shook his head firmly. "Tonight you do." He guided her to the dining table and placed a hot meal before her. She ate slowly, carefully as if afraid it would vanish. Noah sat beside her, chattering about his school, his favorite toys, his excitement for Christmas morning. She listened quietly, nodding and smiling though tears rolled down her cheeks. Later they sat by the tree. Noah asked her to help hang the last few ornaments. She hesitated, but Daniel encouraged her. She reached up, placing the ornament on the branch, and Noah clapped. "That is perfect, Emily. You made the tree complete." She laughed softly, the sound fragile yet beautiful, and Daniel watched in silence. Something inside his heart shifted, watching the way his son looked at her, not with pity, but with acceptance. As the clock neared midnight, Daniel offered her the guest room. She protested, "I can sleep on the floor," but he interrupted. "No, you will sleep in a warm bed tonight." She looked at him and whispered something he would never forget. She said, "I had given up. I thought kindness was gone from this world, but you and your son showed me there is still light. Thank you for saving me, not just from the cold, but from myself." That night, Daniel lay awake thinking about her words. He realized wealth had never made him feel as alive as that single act of compassion, and he wondered if perhaps fate had brought Emily into their lives for a reason. The next morning, Noah woke her with excitement. "It is Christmas, Emily. You have to open presents." She tried to refuse, saying, No, I cannot take from you," but Daniel handed her a neatly wrapped box. He said, "You are family today." She opened it to find a warm coat and scarf. She held it against her chest, crying softly. "I do not remember the last time anyone gave me a gift." She hugged Noah tightly, whispering thank you. Days turned into weeks and Emily stayed with them. Daniel helped her find work, connected her with people who could guide her back to stability. But more than that, he treated her with respect as an equal, never letting her forget her worth. Noah adored her, and her laughter began to fill the house slowly, healing the silence that once haunted every corner. One evening, months later, Emily sat with Daniel on the porch watching Noah play in the yard. She turned to him and said, "You gave me more than food and shelter. You gave me back my dignity. You reminded me that I am still someone worthy of love and life." Daniel looked at her, his eyes soft, and said, "And you gave me something I had been missing, too. You brought joy back into this house. You gave Noah another reason to smile, and you reminded me that love is not gone." From that night forward, their lives intertwined not by chance, but by choice. They became each other's strength, each other's hope. Emily was no longer the woman searching through trash. She was a part of a family that had once been broken, but was now whole. And for Daniel, the millionaire who once thought money was his only shield, he discovered that true wealth was found, not in possessions, but in kindness, in compassion, and in the courage to open his door to a stranger on Christmas Eve. Years later, when people asked him what changed his life, he would smile and answer, "It was not a business deal or a fortune. It was a night when I saw someone digging through the trash, and what she said reminded me that kindness is the greatest gift we can give."